So Jet, are you gonna miss NASCAR on Fox? Am I gonna miss it? Hell no, to the no. I may have to copyright over that with my own horrible voice, but it's our final race on Fox. Let's celebrate. Yo, what's up everyone? My name is Jet. Welcome back to an episode of MDK Racing Victory Stop, recapping Sonoma, most importantly, the final race for NASCAR on Fox for 2024. We'll get to that in a little bit, but wow. For a Sonoma race, which if you listen to my pre-race, I was completely wrong. I thought with the repave, and generally Sonoma's not known to be an exciting racetrack, a repave, and a tire that normally with this next gen car just does not wear, I thought we were going to see a very boring race, but we saw quite the opposite of that. Very exciting race, lots of different strategies, great finish. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. In fact, the whole day, F1 produced probably the best race of the year for, in that sport over there. IndyCar, great race at Road America, and NASCAR Sonoma. I mean, that's rare that all three races, different series, produce bangers. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it started very sloppy. I mean, lap 2, Denny Hamlin blows an engine. First off, blowing an engine in today's NASCAR is extremely rare. To blow it on lap 2 is very, 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 very rare. I don't know what caused Hamlin to blow an engine, but he went up in smoke on lap 2. Then we saw some other incidents happen. We saw Logano, who had a good battle with Tyler Reddick, holding him off for the race lead. Then we saw Martin Truex Jr. go off track in turn 2 for 18th place after he got tapped by Will Brown in the 33 car. Then on lap 14, William Byron had to make an unscheduled pit stops after there were a bunch of holes that were found in the left rear tire of his car. Don't know how that got there, but then one lap later, Ty Gibbs had a right rear tire go down. He hit the wall, sent debris onto the racetrack, brought out a caution. Joey Logano pits, giving the lead to Tyler Reddick. Logano went from the lead to around 21st spot, basically in the midst of the hornet's nest. On that next restart, Chase Briscoe gets off track in turn 8 from 15th. Logano spins in the middle of the track after contact from Ricky Stenhouse. Harrison Burton then runs into the door of Logano. Bunch of cars gets involved in this one, and Logano went from leading the race to basically out of the race because he was no longer in contention. And then we had a 3-lap shootout with Reddick and Blaney, and Reddick ended up winning stage 1. Very chaotic stage 1. Stage 2 just got even worse. Austin Cindric nearly went up and over up in turn 1, reminiscent of like Steve Park or Ken Schrader in the late 90s. Then Will Brown had an issue, pulled off of the racetrack onto that Gilligan's Island area. Then lap 35, Bubba Wallace went off track doing some Dukes of Hazzards and kind of caused drivers to jostle for positions. And then Josh Berry just cuts across Eric Jones. They made contact and Berry decided to go bowling and bam! Takes out 4 to 6 cars in the process. He even then got on the radio. He had the balls to get on the radio and said, "What the F are these guys doing? What were you doing? Why were you going bowling at a racetrack?" 40, Austin Cindric gets together and spin up in turn 8A. Michael McDowell spins trying to avoid the carnage, as well as Austin Cindric I think was also involved. And yeah, after that, it started to get very ridiculous. But after that incident, I believe we would go caution free, at least in terms of legit cautions from the rest of the way. We got to see some really good racing and some very interesting strategy, because the way on how those cautions fell back to back to back to back to back. We got to around lap 50 and the top 7 drivers still hadn't yet gone onto pit road. So the front runners, drivers like Tyler Reddick, Kyle Larson, they pit right before the end of stage 2 to set up for the final stage in stage 3. That gives the lead to Chris Buescher, who needs these stage points because he's right on the cusp of trying to keep his playoff spot. He goes on and wins stage 2. In the meantime, while that's going on, back behind them, Tyler Reddick and Larson end up battling for what would be the race lead, at least for a good portion of the time. They had a good little battle, I believe, up in turn 7 or 7A, I think, in that area. And they made contact. Tyler Reddick then, I believe, probably flat spotted the tires because he went off racetrack. Was able to collect it, keep it going, but definitely did hinder his performance, I believe, as we get later on into this episode, because he did not have the same car, I think, than after that incident with Larson. So when stage 3 begins, we had 2 different types of strategies going on. We had Chris Buescher and Martin Truex Jr. that were first and second. This is after the final round of pit stops. Buescher first, Truex in second. Truex clearly has the faster car, but 9 seconds behind is Kyle Larson, because Larson has 13, 14 some odd lap fresher tires. Again, with the way the strategy played out, with Larson pitting 2-3 laps prior to the end of stage 2, that set him up for a last lap gas effort for the final few laps of stage 3. And it worked out to his advantage. Truex just could not get around Buescher. That allowed Larson to just eat away 8, 9 seconds. Bam, all that was gone. And with around 11 or 12 laps to go, 1, 2, 3 were nose to tail. And it was a really good battle between those 3 drivers. It was all about hitting your marks, not making a mistake, something Chris Buescher did not do. With 10 to go, he missed the apex and heading into turn 11, or I should say missed the apex, I believe up in turn 8A around the S's area. That allowed for Martin Truex Jr. to get to his inside, and Truex takes the lead from Buescher. And a great move by Truex, takes it with force going into turn 2 up the hill. But he wasn't out of the woods yet, because when that happened, he had Larson right behind him, and then Truex a little bit later, he makes some mistakes. He misses the apex, goes out wide. Larson gets to his inside, and Larson takes the lead right before the S's, basically sealing the deal, because Larson, like I said, had 13 some odd lap pressure tires. There was no way that Truex could hold off Larson. But on the final lap, things get interesting. On the final lap, Kyle Busch, the cameras just cut to Kyle Busch just getting dumped by Ross Chastain, and mere feet, I'm talking mere feet before the finish line, Truex runs out of gas. I mean, look at this picture. I mean, you're talking about, what, 40, maybe 30 feet? Probably. I mean, oh, so close from cross and start finish line. Truex goes from second to, I believe, 27th place. He was able to just crawl. The man literally crawled to the start finish line, finishing in the 27th position. But it was Kyle Larson that go on to win for the 26th time in his Cup Series career, tying Dale Earnhardt Jr. for 32nd on NASCAR's all-time win list, and becoming the 3rd driver to win 3 races in 2024 and scoring his 2nd win at Sonoma. Now, Kyle Busch, because of his spin, he went from having potentially a top 5 finish to end up finishing in the 12th position. So let's take a look at your unofficial race results. So like I mentioned, Kyle Larson wins. Michael McDowell charging to 2nd place, a great run for him. Chris Buescher, a much needed 3rd place run considering where he is in the playoffs. Chase Elliott and Ross Chastain in the top 5. AJ Allmendinger, a good run for him in 6th. Ryan Blaney in 7th. Tyler Reddick was able to climb up to 8th, but again, never had the speed that to be with Larson after that incident near the end of stage 2. Christopher Bell and Todd Gilliland, the top 10. Good run for that 38 team. How about Corey LaJoie in 11th place? Good run for that 7 team. Kyle Busch, like I said, rallies to 12th, even with that spin. Brad Keselowski, Daniel Suarez, Alex Bowman, teammates Zane Smith and Carson Hocevar, Ryan Preece, Eric Jones, and Bubba Wallace the top 20. Joe Logano with that damage near the beginning of the race around stage 1 finishes in 21st. Austin Cindric 22nd. Kaz Grala, Stenhouse Jr. and Harrison Burton the top 25. Truex finishes in 27th position. Other notables, like you see William Byron, when he made that unscheduled pit stop, I mean, he was just never able to recover, finishes in 30th. Will Brown, who had multiple engine issues all weekend long with what I thought he had a very fast car. Unfortunate for him, finishes 31st. And then Josh Berry, all these other drivers were involved in that turn 11 incident. Berry in 32nd, Haley 33rd. He was running the top 10 for a good portion of the race until he had steering issues. Chase Briscoe with the transmission problem from that incident with Logano. Cam Waters, 35th place after that incident in turn 11 with Josh Berry, as well as Austin Dillon. Ty Gibbs in 37th. He was actually the 2nd driver to bring out the caution, and Denny Hamlin, like I said, finishes in dead last. Here's a look at the playoff grid with 10 races to go until the playoffs. So Kyle Larson, once again, back on top of the playoff standings. He actually has a 14-point lead ahead of Chase Elliott in the regular season standings. So that's important to notice. But yeah, not much change in terms of the playoff grid, except for when you look at the right-hand side. Truex actually gains a spot, 133 now ahead of the cut line. Ty Gibbs now plus 91, Chastain plus 78, Bowman 71, and Blaney 69. They at least now have a 1-race gap if we have a repeat winner next weekend at Iowa. Buescher and Wallace, 37 points and 13 points above the cut line respectively. They are going to need to bring their A game in these final 10 races. Kyle Busch, the first one out, minus 13. Logano, minus 16. Briscoe, minus 27. He falls to 19th place. Michael McDowell back to the top 20, minus 93 points. Minus 93 points below the cut line. So yeah, overall, I would give this race a 7 out of 10. It was sloppy at the beginning, entertaining, but sloppy. But that second half, really from stage 3 onwards, was very fun. Again, the strategy was very interesting. The racing was good. Tires mattered. We saw worn off. We saw a lot of fall off. It was very fun, which is weird because Sonoma is usually one of the most boring races of the entire season. It was actually pretty good. Now, if you want to know my thoughts on which was better, F1, IndyCar, or NASCAR, I mean, I kind of have to give it to F1. Never thought I would say that, but I thought F1 had the best race. But IndyCar and NASCAR also had banger races, and I thought the finish to the Sonoma race was very fun to watch. So I give this race a 7 out of 10. Let's talk about the broadcasts. I showed you that clip between Busch and Chastain of Busch getting dumped by Chastain. That was NASCAR's social media posting that, not Fox. Fox never showed what happened. They never showed what happened before, nor did they follow up. They didn't follow up, didn't give any interview from Busch or Chastain. You didn't know. I thought maybe Busch was going to start swinging, considering how his attitude has been the last few weeks. But we got no follow-up, nothing on that. Another thing that I have such a problem with Fox, again, is the commercials. We talk about this, but for example, they have this thing called Toyota All Out, where they, instead of going to a full screen commercial, you have Toyota basically pay for that section of the broadcast and you get onboards of all Toyota drivers. On one side, that's fine. I mean, I really don't like it, but I do not want, no offense, Tyler Reddick, but I do not care on his homegrown racetracks. That's something you do pre-race or on Race Hub. I don't care about during the actual race. On top of that, they missed a lot of stuff. They would cut to random drivers or cut to random shots that have nothing to do with the race. On top of that, for the finish of the race, when Kyle Larson crossed the start finish line, I don't know what is it with Fox and having to immediately cut to the crew chief or cut to the stands, because it felt like Kevin Dunn came back after he left the WWE. He started working for Fox because the amount of camera cuts is cut to the crew chief, cut to the crowd, quick cut to the driver, back to the crew chief, back to the crew, back to the crowd. It's like, stay on one frame, okay? On top of that, when they had instances like what happened with Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch, when the booth was talking about it, when Truex was trying to cross our finish line, Fox would show it for maybe 2 seconds and then cut away. 2 seconds, cut away. And they would never just stay still, stay in frame, have a still shot of what is going on. They were all over the place. And it's like, oh God. I understand that TV production is very, very difficult. And I know that if I was in their shoes, I'd be horrible at that. But that's their job. They're paid to do one thing and they're paid to do it well. Sorry to be an asshole about it, but it's so bad. Like, look, NBC ain't perfect. They're not perfect, but when they mess up, at least they make up for it. When Foxes mess up, they just keep digging. They don't try to build themselves back up. They just keep digging. So I am so glad that this is their final race this season. I am so happy that NBC is back next weekend at Iowa. Very happy that Lee Diffie is going to be back, at least in the NASCAR booth, to do the races following the Olympics. Very happy about that. But Fox needs to have major change in terms of the production. The booth, it needs work. It's good, but it's not there yet. I mean, you still hear it with Joy, Harvick, and Boyer, and it's the first year, so I get it. It still feels a bit awkward. It doesn't flow as well like with Mike Joy, Larry McReynolds, and Darrell Waltrip in their early years. It didn't, this booth, there's something there, but it doesn't flow. It still doesn't flow yet, but I think that will come with time. And spending more time around each other, I think that will develop. But the production for Fox, oh my God, that is like an F, like a 5%, not like a 59, 5. Absolute garbage. And I am so glad that we're done with them for the rest of the year. But my God, they need to switch it up for 25. They need to have a complete overhaul. But yeah, that's it for my thoughts here at Sonoma. What are your thoughts of this race? Did you like it? Did you not? Let me know in the comment section down below. We have a lot of storylines to talk about in these final 10 races of the regular season. We have a very, very tight spot for the playoff standings in terms of the regular season championship with Larson, now Chase Elliott, and Denny Hamlin. Those 3 drivers seem to be the most consistent drivers to date. And we look at the playoff bubble. Big names like Chris Buescher and Bubba Wallace trying to fight their way to stay in the playoffs, and former Cup champions like Logano and Busch trying to get into it. very interesting to see how it will play out in these final 10 races. But until next time, my name is Jet. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.